Happy Friday, everyone. For those of you that are catching us on the replay, I appreciate you spending your extra time just to come see what we're talking about. With me tonight is G-Force. Mark, how you doing?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I've been trying to get people on that I've watched and, see what they do. And now we're going to talk about your toys. But before we talk about your toys, though, we're going to talk about Don McMillan's Geek Nerd Dork version of the Myers-Briggs personality chart. So, as you notice at the top, the Venn diagram describes a high IQ and socially awkward as a dork. A high IQ with an obsession is a geek. An obsession and being socially awkward makes you a stalker. Now, to move from dork into nerd, which is the confluence of all three, you just need to find an obsession. To move from geek to nerd, you just have to become socially awkward. I've discussed this many times. I'm not sure how you become socially awkward. I guess you could. If you really wanted to, you could just, be socially awkward if you wanted to. But to go from stalker to nerd, which is really interesting, you have to work on your IQ. So you have to learn. So in this spectrum that we have right here, where do you think you fit?
I would say in the nerd to geek range.
And that's where we should fit, right? I mean, most of us in this hobby, we all, we might occasionally be socially awkward. Not everybody, because, I'm sure we have somebody in the chat going, I'm not socially awkward. I know it's
I'm totally socially awkward.
And I have moments where I'm just, with the autism, it's just one of those things. I will be blunt with somebody and they'll be looking at me like I just killed their cat.
Yep.
So
yeah,
it comes with the property. So with that, we're going to see. I have absolutely zero that I picked up this week. But did you pick up anything?
I did pick one thing up. Got myself a Infinity War machine.
Nice.
So stopped by Walmart last night to get a couple quick things, and as one does, you stop in the toy aisle as well, and it's like, oh, I'll take that, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And like I said, I knew who would say it because he always says it, because me and Lawrence have this debate. But, he says he's not socially awkward, but we'll find out. I will be hanging around at Joe Fest. So you going to Joe Fest
this year?
I am.
Excellent. We will see you there.
Something special. So I don't ever get to get away from my son. He's basically what's called a level 3 now. It used to be severe profound autistic. He is nonverbal and very aggressive, but we have somebody that is capable of managing him and helping us. So we're going to try, my wife and I are going to try to do that in June. It's right before my 50th birthday, so it's kind of that whole
very nice,
nice family get together thing. We're going to check in with the chat, see who else is here besides Lawrence, because I appreciate him coming. Master Versal Toy Hunter is here. Eldor, I'm sure he's here and not here because he has this moment where he vanishes because, he lives on a turn again. So, wait, hang on. Somebody else is in the. Wait, somebody else is here. There's a guy doing double duty there. Digital Diarrhea, what's up?
Hey.
Okay, we are officially YouTube. Nolan is here.
No one's here.
Once Nolan's here, you're officially YouTube. There's Ostradamus Toys. Oz, hello.
Oz, how are you?
Zane Productions, what's up? Everyone does have their weirdness. Yes, yes, they do. And
Yeah.
Aaron the Toy Enhancer, what's up, man? We got to talk maybe next month or March. I want to get you on. Lawrence is a social butterfly. I will say, yes, he's not quite as awkward as I am. But that's only for so long. So, one of the things that I do, because my background is in psychology, I left school in my dissertation to care for my son. So I have a lot of education. I have a lot of practical experience. I spent 6 years working in a psychiatric hospital, became a clinical program coordinator right before I left, again, to manage my son. One of those themes that happens with autistic children is you kind of have to give up some of those
Oh yeah.
things that you want in order to make it better for him, which is fine. You
Yeah.
know, I wouldn't trade him for the world.
As you should. As you should.
So one of the things that I try to get people to realize, and this was particularly important for me, was the importance of play and making sure that we, as adults, taking that time to play.
Hmm.
There's a reason why. One, there's research out there that says being in a playful state of mind increases your lifespan, improves happiness. There's all of these great positive aspects to play. And even as kids, it helped us socialize. It helped us learn rules. It helped us set up and play with our imaginations. And, it's all of these things that we forget as adults that are critical to us. And we don't have to play with toys. We can play with whatever, but we still
Right.
have that state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe a play state for you. And then
Okay.
from there, we're going to talk a few questions that are specifically related to that play state. So a play state's a state of mind where one's absorbed in an activity that's providing them enjoyment and they lose track of time. In psychology, we would call this flow. Um, in sports, they would call it somebody in the zone where they're not really there
Yep.
in the moment. It's Zen experience. So, given that definition, where you just lost track of time, when was the last time that you played?
I play quite a bit. Um, I would say nightly I try to. And even if it's just doing an Instagram reel and taking a figure out and photographing it and putting some music to it's something just to get out of the day-to-day humdrum of everything that we have to do as adults.
Yeah.
I do some customizing, some diorama building and stuff like that. And that is more where I would say fitting your definition of losing time and stuff like that. Like once I'm immersed in a project, then like time just goes.
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally get
It's
that.
totally secondary.
When I do the creative, I do a creative toy therapy, and those tend to be like 3 hours.
Hmm.
And my normal toy therapies are about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the conversation. So you can see that there's that disparity when I'm busy trying to do something and then I'm talking and then I'm doing this and coming back to it. It's all that dynamics to it. So it's always an interesting thing. So in thinking about play, when you were a kid, what were your favorite ways to play? Did everything go together? Did you have to keep it apart? Was it structured? Was it chaos?
Um, it was, I would say, pretty structured within my world. Um, if I'm playing by myself, a lot of what my playtime with toys anyway was the setup. So, say you're taking your Star Wars figures out, it was all in setting up the scene more than actually doing anything with it.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't
It was
have
all
to
in the pre-planning.
transition into a scene. It just had to look the part. And
Yeah.
then like, okay, let's break it down and do something different. You know,
Yeah.
that was more the way I enjoyed playing, was the whole setup of things. As far as other types of play, though, like music, for example, I'm not a musician. I play one on TV. But I enjoy the effort and getting lost and just trying to figure out a song, or,
Hmm.
riff to a song. And sometimes the journey, I think, is better than the
The destination. Yeah.
destination in some instances, but yeah.
So do you, in thinking about your childhood and playing with your toys, do you remember how playing made you feel?
I don't remember a lot of stress or cares or anything like that. If that makes
Yeah.
sense, like, the
No.
you didn't
Yeah.
have any, you didn't have a care in the world. Basically, you're just like, oh, I know I'm going to take these toys over to this rock I saw by the creek, and I'm going to set this up, and you just didn't. Nothing from the outside world could really harm you or
Yeah.
cause you a care in the world. You know what I mean? Um, so it was, I guess it's a freedom, maybe,
Okay.
when you're playing, like,
Yeah.
where you have this
Yeah.
release and you don't have to think about anything else.
So, in thinking about that, when was the last time you had similar feelings as an adult?
As an adult, oh, let's see. Um, it, I would say it does stem around the toy collecting hobby, at least. Getting together with your close friends and good friends that share this
Mhm.
hobby with us. Um, I think that was probably the last time. It may have been Joe Fest 2023, but there there was just a group of us together, and we were first time meeting each other face to face.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like we had been friends all our lives.
Yeah.
So there was just like this easiness about being with people you were just meeting for the first time. Usually it
Yeah.
can be a stressful or
Awkward. Yeah.
anxious
Yeah.
situation, right?
Yeah.
And but you've talked to them online, or maybe in a chat or a live stream or something like that, once, twice, but it it was, I would think that type of scenario as an adult leans into that side of,
Okay.
like, when you were a kid and not having to worry about the struggles of everyday life.
Okay. So, as a kid, everything was structured. Now, how do you play now as an adult with your toys versus when you were playing as a kid? What are the
Hmm.
differences? What are the main things that are different for you?
When you can squeeze that time in,
Exactly.
you know. But yeah, it's a lot more loose, I think, now. Where, and by loose, I guess I should say, when you can fit it into your day.
Yeah.
I try every single day to get into this room. Uh, I mean, I put a lot of effort into creating it and collecting it, and so I try to spend time in here as much as I can, because this is my escape from everyday life. So, um, I, I don't know. That's a hard question.
Yeah, that's kind of what I run with. I run with hard questions.
I try my best every single day to get in here. to get
So
some kind of time in. But
when you were a
it
kid and you were playing, who
mhm.
won the most battles, the good guys or the bad guys?
Probably the good guys. I was more of a goodie as a kid.
So childhood toy lines. Give me your top 3 lines and why.
Um, so it would be Star Wars, GI Joe, and probably wrestling. Um,
You
Star
talking
Wars,
LJN or Jack specific wrestling?
um, I didn't actually have any LJNs. I did have the wrestling ring for them. Um, I was one of six children, so we weren't very affluent growing up or anything like that, but my parents did a heck of a job getting all of us things we wanted. So I had more thumb wrestlers
Oh, okay.
and Masters of the Universe figures that were all big, bulky
Yeah.
guys,
Could easily
loincloths.
substitute as wrestlers. There's a
So,
reason why they have that the WWE figures that are made on the same buck. So
yeah, yeah. So those were more my wrestlers, my Motu guys. But I just loved wrestling. I grabbed magazines when we'd go to the grocery store, or the newsstands, or anything like that. Um, so that was a big one for me. And the Star Wars side of it, I since I was 5 years old, my dad took me to go see Star Wars, and I've never looked back. I've had Star Wars stuff in my room ever since.
so are there any toys from your childhood that made it through to adulthood that you have still in your collection?
I have, I think, two action figures complete with their card backs, and then I have three broken figures from Star Wars.
So they made
Um,
it. Some made it, yeah.
some did, yes. When I went off to college, my parents had a yard sale, and everything got sold except for my Star Wars collection. My mom held on to that because she knew it meant that much to me.
Yeah.
She should have known about the Joes, but I'll give her a pass on that.
It it's okay. My ex-wife and mother sold all of my Joes and my flag for $75.
Oh, oh,
So I feel the pain of the lost Joe collection.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there are times that I want to go back and get some of it, but I don't really want to go get it, if you know what I mean.
yes.
So is there any figures that you really would want to go back and get from your childhood?
Um, I wouldn't mind going back and getting some of the more, I guess, smaller lines, like the Clash of the Titans figures, or
Oh
maybe
yeah,
some
yeah.
Battlestar Galactica, or something along those lines, where you had like four or five figures, and that
Hmm.
was about it that you could get.
That you can get now. The Battlestar Galactica might be a little more expensive than,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah,
No, it's the smaller toy lines are always kind of those. It's that interesting conundrum where you're gonna be dealing with price versus what was out there. So I mean,
right,
you
right. They didn't put them
smaller,
out in the
the less of the
masses.
line that was made, the smaller your chances are of finding it. So it's always an interesting
Right,
thing in the hunt.
right.
So we're going to talk about, we've talked about your childhood toys. We're going to talk about your current collection, and give me a second to pull up some stuff. I didn't really do much as far as put these in order, but I just did try to
It,
at least get them all
order's not important.
together, which was the more important part. So we're going to go from here. Now, this I found interesting. It was Now this looks like a very retro style. I love the decoration here.
Okay. Now the big mass in the middle are Left Coast Graphics
Okay.
prints. He makes pins, enamel pins, and so to support some of the work he's doing there, he does prints and patches and stuff like that. So um, I wanted to get a bunch of those, and then I
And
have my
these,
little of my original 12 that I had to rebuy, and Lonely
you have
Hammerhead.
an extra hammerhead on top, huh?
Yeah. So those are a couple of Left Coast pins on the top next to Hammerhead as well.
Oh, okay.
There's
Okay,
Hammerhead
cool.
and the Sandcrawler. And then the Princess Leia picture to the left is
There you go.
something that Shabby Geek made.
Oh, that was
He gave
cool.
me. So he
Little
does a lot of
decoupage.
decoupage type stuff. He makes furniture and things like that. So
Cool. All right. And next is a card wall. See, we'll get to that question later about carded or not carded.
okay.
Now, you have this is all Star Wars, right? I love the
Yeah.
use of the.
I would try to block that UV light.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? Pray that the
So this
cases are UV resistant, right? Especially with cards,
yeah,
but you got a Razor Crest and you got the
Steve.
what is the you have a Mr. Potato Head Mandalorian.
Yeah, he was a
That's cool.
Christmas present this year.
And you got a stack of stuff. I don't know what that is. It looks like
So those are
micro
puzzles.
machines,
So,
puzzles.
no,
Okay,
they're puzzles, Star Wars puzzles from early 70s, or excuse me, late 70s, early 80s. But this is my TVC display, my vintage collection
okay.
display. So these are all modern, but there's about 250 of them in this room.
Is
So
the
there's
Falcon modern or
the
is that the
Falcon
legacy
is
one?
that's vintage. That's a
Vintage. Okay.
78,
Okay.
and that was to me by Hollow Chronicles.
All right. Now this one's a little
That's,
busier, so it's got kind of a little bit of everything, doesn't it?
yep. This is behind me. This is my 6-inch room. So on the right hand side is mostly Marvel Legends.
And wrestling. I see your wrestlers peeking out at the
And
top there.
yep, wrestling goes on the opposite wall. And then you got some
And there's
NASCAR in there.
NASCAR stuff.
And then we got Joe's on the table for classified and some of the tanks and
Black
stuff.
Series.
And you get into Black Series.
You got a little mix of the Batman 66 stuff's over there too. I've seen
Yep.
that peeking out in the corner.
You got to find room where you can.
That's the bane of all collectors everywhere is space.
Yep,
You gotta put it wherever you can get it.
exactly. So
Some
on
more
the
RC
top, there's
cars.
some archives, some Lego, some 1/24th scale NASCARs.
Cool. Better look at the Joe
Yeah.
shelf. You managed to get just about everything, didn't you?
That is my bread and butter right now. Like Joe's are the sickness.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot line, and it's my favorite line.
Yeah.
So here's
Black
your
Series.
Star Wars. Now this is Black Series stuff, right?
Yep.
And then behind it is your Batman 66 hiding in the background.
Hiding in the background. Gets no love.
Hey, it is what it is. This we'll get a little closer look on this cabinet here in a minute, but I do
Yeah,
love the kind of the 3.75 retro cards on the wall.
yeah.
Just
The
something about
retro
that.
marble
I
up
have a
there.
similar thing in my pseudo toy room. It's not really a toy room anymore. It's actually a guest bedroom now. But my stuff was still on the wall. So I still get my toys on the wall,
Yeah.
but I
The
can't
guest
actually go in
bedroom
and
next to Get Axed. That's the one
yeah.
that's gonna be the overflow room. But yeah, we got those up there. We got a bunch of Lego. So
Now this is some
these are
custom stuff, right?
some customs. Yeah.
I know that you sent me a picture when I posted my preliminary on my claw. You sent me a picture of yours. I thought it looked great.
Thank you.
I love what you did there. And then obviously the Fortnite boat that you repainted with some camo deco.
Yeah, a
Looks
little
good.
stealthy camo. And then that is a New Ray Toys Yamaha snowmobile. And I just threw some paint on that to give it snow job colors. And in the background is my bat signal I made from a jar.
Oh, cool. And the Star Wars helmet,
Yep, a little bit of Black
the
Series helmets
Stormtrooper.
and DTOFs.
And this
That's
is
most.
kind of the looks like a little McFarlane, little Marvel Legends,
You see multiverse on the table, and then some legends behind that.
Transformers.
Some
Got a little bit of
Transformer.
everything there. That is
Yep,
definitely the mix table.
that's a mishmash.
Hey, it works. I mean, that's kind of what we have to do sometimes. We have to put everything together.
Yep, it's got Spawn in there.
Yeah, it's
So
got
this
everything.
is that same wall, but you can see there's Joe's in the far left corner,
Hmm.
the retro
The retro ones, yeah.
3.75. Got the Fantastic Four line, and you got wrestling on the top shelf, Gundams on top of the DTOF, and then a NECA
Do
shelf
you do the
below the
Gundam, the
wrestling.
Gunpla too?
A little bit. I don't do it as much anymore because that space is pretty much taken. So I have no room to
See,
put
it's filled.
kits, but
It's filled.
yeah.
We can't fit anymore. There's a statue, which looks great.
So that's my pride and joy, my Asajj Mythos statue. And next to it is a Lego light cruiser
Nice.
and
And that
a
Ahsoka print, is that a
Ahsoka
print
print.
or a painting or a drawing?
That's a print.
Okay, that looks
Roberto
great.
Vargas, I want to say his last name is the
That's cool.
artist, but yeah, he's got a bunch of affordable prints on I think it's Etsy.
Oh,
Um
cool.
yeah, I like that print a lot.
It's a cool look. All right, some more
So that's
Marvel Legends,
Marvel. Yeah.
and then there's your boxed Marvel Legends. Oop, go back, go back. There we go. I guess that was the right one. So this is more of your TVC wall,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's impressive.
I That's my second mainstay. If I see something TVC that I don't have, I have to pick it up.
Anything that you're a completionist on?
No,
Okay.
no. I try not to do that specifically because I know it's such a daunting task. Um, Way they're putting stuff out nowadays with modern stuff, I don't know
Oh yeah.
that you can do that. Especially with the way they're doing exclusives for certain stores and countries, and I think they're trying to make it impossible to do that.
I don't know why it's doing that, but okay. Every time it wants to make it bigger. So this is your carded Spider-Man wall. I assume that there's a reason you have the Spider-Man retro cards. Is that more of
Um,
you were a fan of the cartoon or?
I honestly, I don't know that I ever saw the cartoon.
Oh wow.
I may have aged out by then, but I was always a big Spider-Man fan. Um, in the comic books and things like that. And those cards just, I am a big fan of card art. So
Yeah.
the card looks good. Um, it's going to be in my collection.
Uh, Yeah, that's
But
great.
I'm very particular with cards specifically. Boxes I can open, so that's why more of my 6-inch room has stuff opened in
Yeah,
it.
because they're
But
boxed. Yeah.
yeah, and I can't afford to be a inbox or one in box, one to rock type of guy. I can't do that.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. Got a little pop section, a little Hot Wheels section, and then a
Some
couple
pops
Bruce
and
Lee
Hot
figures,
Wheels, yeah,
and
and
then a
some
Crow
Diamond Select
figure.
stuff. Yeah, big into Bruce Lee when I was a kid.
Now here's your gotcha man, or
Yeah,
Battle of the Planets for those of us, in the United States. I I
is an
I know it's your
actual guy.
logo, so I assume there's a story behind it being your logo.
Um, One of the first cartoons that just, and I'm trying to think if I saw it before or after Star Wars. I want to say I saw it before Star Wars. That kind of got me into that space
Mhm.
feeling. Um, because before that, it was probably all Fisher Price Adventure people
Yeah.
or 12-inch GI Joes or something like that. Like we didn't have a lot of properties to choose from back in the early 70s.
Was
But
not a wealth of toys, was it?
no. So when that cartoon came out, it just plucked a chord with me, and I loved it. Um, so that is an actual Ken the Eagle, Mark the Eagle. So he is a gotcha man, not a
Yeah.
Battle of the Planet.
Now, are these little, are those what are the little figures here on the
So the
edge?
the yellow ones are alien muscle men.
Okay.
So
Oh,
next to them are guns, rail guns from Alien. So those are
okay.
Hayatoy.
Oh, okay, those are the Hayatoya figures, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There's a loader in the back and a couple of different packs of aliens and things like that. But
Alright, so that's everything in your collection, but we're gonna come back to some things. So, your favorite figure?
my favorite figure right now, I would say it's the classified Cobra Eel because they just
Okay.
showed up a couple days ago.
What is the worst figure from your favorite line?
The worst figure from my favorite line. Um, Falcon's up there. He's up there. Uh, if I'm picking Joe's, I would have to say that. Uh, I'll stick with that for now. If I think of another one,
Okay. So,
but
when you decide to get a toy, and what is it about that particular toy that draws you to it? Is there something that says, "This has gotta come home, I gotta take this, I gotta get this," or is it more of, there's something special about it, or does it require a franchise? Is it something that has to have a connection somewhere else for you to get it?
most times, I would say it does require a franchise.
Okay.
I think it has to be somewhat meaningful,
Okay.
either nostalgia or, um, like you say, a franchise that I'm invested in already. That probably plays a big part in determining if I'm even interested in it to begin with. Um, there are instances like I don't know anything about what is it, Demon Slayer? Is that the
Okay.
anime
Yeah.
that's out? Um, but they have some really cool figures on the shelf right now. McFarlane's doing some good
Hmm.
work in those characters, and so they've been catching my eye, but I haven't pulled the trigger because I don't have any investment into that property.
Investment
I
in it. Yeah.
don't know anything about it. I don't know the characters or anything like that, but they so appearance is another big thing. Whether the card art or the packaging speaks to you, I think, is
Yeah.
another factor on whether you even notice it on the shelf.
So
Do you
is
remember
there?
when started window free packaging?
Yeah.
I have a lot of toy collecting friends and watch their videos and stuff, and they'd go on hunts and they would pass by the windowless boxes in the beginning every single time and be like,
Yeah.
just missed this over here. And they're like, I didn't even see it. And it's just so packaging does draw you in
Yeah.
initially to get that attraction, you know?
Well, I think for a lot of us, especially those of us who grew up in the 70s and 80s, um, like you and me, we were used to going into a toy store and it would be packed front to back with toys. And there would be, a wall of GI Joe. There would be a wall of He-Man. There would be a section for Sectars. There'd be a section. You could go in and you could pick, and you could spend hours just sitting there looking at the walls. And I
Yep.
think we kind of have lost that a little bit with more big box, non-toy related, when Toys R Us
Yep.
went down, that kind of went away, but even they weren't the Toys R Us of the 80s where it was
Of the
just
80s, right?
packed. There was just something special about that time, something different. So does the community of collectors, so let's say that we have this thing we call the enablers, it's what Lawrence uses calls his people on, his memberships, but there's toy enablers. We all have our friends and our community that we're in, and sometimes they get us to buy things that we wouldn't normally buy. Does that happen to you pretty frequently?
I wouldn't say frequently, no, but it does happen. You'll see Johnny over here has this new toy, and you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
it's
I
taunting,
think I
right?
need to get me one of them. Yeah.
They
So,
just taunt you with it for a little while, and you're just like, "Ah, I don't need it.
and
I don't need it. Okay, I got it."
it goes both ways too. I'm sure it's happened where I put a toy hunt out on my channel, and somebody's like, "Oh, I need that. Oh, you gotta get me that. Oh, well."
Lawrence is currently lying. He says he would never enable anybody. That is a lie, sir. That's why you do reviews. That's enabling. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. Yes.
What's up, Jim? Okay,
Margot.
so we're gonna get back to the questions here in a second. I can check in with the chat for a minute, see if anybody else's questions. No, no.
Showed up.
Lawrence is just letting us know. Of course, after I tell my flag story, he has to chime in with still has his childhood flag. Yes, Lawrence, we know. We know. Oh, and I forgot it is Largo's birthday. Happy birthday,
Is
Jim.
it today?
It is
Happy
today.
birthday. Yeah, Groundhog Day, baby.
Ah. So
Happy birthday.
have you continuously collected toys, or was there a period of time where you didn't, and what kind of brought you back to collecting?
There was the obligatory period of time where started getting into girls and cars and stuff like that. Um, where I did not collect toys. I did not think it was cool, and I still had some toys in my room, like a little Michael Jordan starting lineup or
Mhm.
something like that, but it wasn't to the extent of when I was a kid or what I have now. So that probably lasted from goodness. I want to say around 90 to 2015, somewhere like so, about 25 years or so that I didn't collect any toys. Well, that's a lie too, because I was collecting NASCAR stuff. So it wasn't action figures, but so I would say a good 20 years or so
Okay.
that
So
I
what
did
brought you
not
back?
TVC. I was walking through Walmart one day and I saw Star Wars figures on the peg, and I was like, whoa, wait a second. What do we have here? And they looked just like the original cards. And I was just like,
Mhm.
okay, let's get these. So I grabbed the whole wave. They had whole waves at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. And it wasn't all the
And
funny business we get nowadays.
it slowly just trickled its way back into my life. I started meeting, um, well, I found some YouTube channels just on my own and was watching a couple people. So at that time, it was like your retro blastings and analog toys, those types of guys. Usual Mike, that were doing toy stuff on YouTube. So I would watch them, and they just keep push that nostalgia button, enabling and showing
Yeah.
you the stuff they got, and you're like, oh, I want that stuff again.
So are there any collection rules that you have for your collection? Is there anything that says, I'm not going to buy this. I'm not going to get it? Because I have some for mine. My main collection rule is any single item cannot be more than my first car.
That's a good one. I may adopt that. I do have rules. um, One that I set up um, during the pandemic was that I cannot pre-order anything that I do not think is going to sell out immediately. So if I think like I can't get this retro Spider-Man Mysterio anywhere, the only place I can find him is online or something like that. That's the
Mm,
only way I'll allow to order online. Otherwise, I have to find it in store. So that, or in stock online, that's a different story. Like
yeah,
pre-ordering versus in stock.
yeah.
Um, but that cut my spending down tremendously by probably more than 50%, because I
Oh,
was
that
just
FOMO didn't kick in, so
saw that I
you're good
wanted. I was
then.
just like, yep. Here's my money. And I was just like, I don't even want this figure when it gets here. What was I thinking? So
Yeah,
I did
we'll get into
establish
regrets
rules.
and remorse later. Yeah.
I did establish rules to try to curb spending and limit the stuff that's coming into the space, because as we said, space is a premium and you have to have a place to put it. Otherwise, why are you buying it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
You're buying it to give yourself stress, right? So you don't
Right,
have any idea
right.
where you're gonna put it.
Yeah.
Although a lot of us do that future me problem kinda thing, and the problem is that future you has added tons of crap between the time that future you and previous you purchased it.
Yes.
So that's my other thing, is that I have to realize that, when I pre-ordered a Dragonfly, when I've, backed a, Robo Skull, those are gonna take up real estate. And in my head, when I got them, I was like, "This is great, I'm excited for this," and now I'm going,
Yeah.
"Oh, crap. I don't know where I'm gonna put this."
And that
So,
is exactly why I did not order a dragonfly or a hiss. Just like 6-inch vehicles are so big.
it is, the his tank is big, it is. I mean, I have it in its own diode that I built specifically for it. I had to actually cut the diode down after I got the his tank, because they didn't really give us a width, they just gave us the
Uh,
length and the height. So I kind of guessed that this was what the width would be. I was pretty close. It was a couple inches. I just cut up
And
a
with
couple inches to
rocket
give me some
launchers on
space.
the side, it
Yeah,
makes it
that
even
took up the
wider.
extra space that I wasn't. Yeah. And Lawrence says he worries about space after it comes in. No, Lawrence, you worry about space the entire time because you're
Future
going to
me
fill up some of
problem.
that space. That is a future me problem, but it could be a problem for me tomorrow because you never know
Yep.
when it's going to happen.
Yep.
So you have a little bit of both on your inbox and out of box, and you kind of talked about the cards kind of make it. But what determines what comes out of the box and what stays in the box?
90% of the time, I would say it is how hard it is to get that figure.
Okay.
So if it's a difficult figure to get hold of, I'm more apt to keep it in box. A lot of the stuff that I have on the walls in box up here are all older stuff, and I can probably take them out and put the backlog that I have on my floor up on the shelves instead. I just haven't gotten to that point yet to switch out the display.
Do a little collection refresh, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Once the ghost comes, I have to take the tables that I have my GI
Oh yeah.
Joes and Marvel on out because they're actually a big industrial shelf just in two pieces. So that's going to go in my TVC room and house all the ships and bigger things like that. And then I'm getting new shelves for here just for figures to go on. So
Okay.
there will be a refresh coming, and we'll worry about that at that time.
It's a future problem that we'll figure
Yeah,
out when it's a
that's a
future
future
problem.
problem.
So, is there anything that you don't do with your toys currently that you'd like to
Um, Eventually sell them.
do? Well,
If I
we
can't
all
take
get to
them
that
with
point where we
me,
kind of decide we don't want this particular line. We'll kind of come to those too later, a little bit later.
yeah, that's a way future problem though. I definitely don't want to stick anyone in my family or friends with this problem
Yeah,
of trying to figure out what is going on with thousands of action figures and what should I ask for this, you know what I mean? Like
exactly. Yeah, no,
I could not burden somebody with that.
so. You've just said that Star Wars is your kind. I'm kind of getting that Star Wars is your favorite all-time line.
Yeah.
What is it about Star Wars that makes it that line for you? That thing that you need?
Um, well, if you go back to just the movies,
Mhm,
not even the figures, um, the storytelling was so good. It had just a little bit of everything in there. There was a little bit of romance, there's a little bit of drama, there's some comedy, there's action, there's sci-fi, you know. So they really did a great job covering a lot of bases. So if you brought your family to see it, there could be something in that movie for everyone. You know, you didn't have to be a space nerd or anything like that to enjoy a
mhm,
Star Wars film. And then they gave us the ability to recreate, imagine with these toys.
mhm.
It just, we hadn't, I don't believe at that time that we had been immersed in a property that had media and physical toys. I'm not sure.
It was a new model, yeah.
It was kind of a new model at the time, I
Yeah,
think. Maybe had it with like some superpowers stuff or the comic type DC Marvel stuff
yeah.
because they predated obviously, but um, there weren't a lot of properties that you could do that with, and I think they just hit with kids at the right time in the late 70s like that, and just were like it took off, and maybe Reagan releasing advertising restrictions and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
just peppering us with
Oh, yeah, no, no, we
ads
were
all day.
programmed from the minute we were up, the minute we went to bed, because that television show was a 30-minute commercial for a toy with multiple commercials of another toy
Yeah,
in the commercials for the big yeah, it was
yeah, yeah,
we got sold and everything. You had plates, you had underwear, you had.
yeah. Underoos, exactly. So I think that's probably where our generation is like so deeply rooted into this toy
Yeah.
community. You know what I mean? Um, I don't necessarily think it's just the nostalgia. I think it's more than that. Like kind of a subliminal type of thing. Like, oh, you see this on TV, you have to have it as a kid. Now as an adult, you see these things and you're like, oh, impulse, just grab it off the shelf.
Well, it's a connection to a simpler time, and it allows you, even for a moment, to feel the way that you used to as a
Yeah,
kid.
maybe.
I mean, you get that connection. It's a lot of us that are nostalgia collectors. I think we get that different. I call it nostalgia crack because that's what
Hmm.
it is. I've kind of branched out from that, which is when I started doing Mythic and Cosmic Legions and AWOC. There's not a nostalgia connection to those.
Right,
It's familiar, i.e., it's magic and space, and it's familiar, but there's not that nostalgia feed, dopamine cycle for me.
right, right,
So it kind of creates a difference for me because I have to look at it differently, especially when I don't have years and years and years of lore to look at.
right.
So, Star Wars, you've got 50 years of lore, roughly. I mean, 77.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty close.
so roughly around
45.
50. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, what if, does the lore changing affect your investment into it?
I would
Because
say,
as stuff changes, as we grow up, as we get older, and it's kind of like I had this discussion a long time ago about there's certain movies in the Star Wars things that I don't like.
yeah,
But what I had to realize was
I have a Ray here. Uh,
they weren't written for me
no, they weren't. You're right.
because it wasn't my generation. Like the prequels is my daughter's generation. She's 25.
Okay.
So that was her Star Wars growing up. The sequels are my son's generation. He's 16. That's his Star Wars. My Star Wars happened from 1977 to 1983.
Yeah.
And I think if we realize that, we can still capture that feeling that we have and that connection to the lore. Now, I loved all of the books in the 90s up through 2000. I think I read up through the Jedi Order. I think it's the New Jedi Order series that came out, right before Disney bought it and scrapped all that. Most of those books I had. Um, there was a lot of investment in Star Wars mythology for me.
Yeah.
Um, but strangely enough, I have very few Star Wars figures.
Huh.
I sold my vintage Star Wars collection, which was pretty much 90% of the figures from 77 to 80.
Yep.
I had a few from Return of the Jedi. I mean, I was kind of moving in a different direction when Return of the Jedi came out. But I did have a 12-inch Boba Fett complete with box, with backer, with inserts. Now his wrists had been glued on, but
I did
it
love
was
that figure. That was a great
it's a
figure.
40-year-old toy. It's gonna have those issues. And then I had a Chewbacca, the same 12-inch with the box,
Same
and I
12
sold
inch.
all those.
Yep.
And I don't miss them. Sometimes we let go of something in order to move in a different direction, and I think that's kind of where we go as collectors, where we just we find something, it really, really makes us invested in it for a little while, and then we kind of move on.
And that's a pretty good point that you're making there, because when I sold my vintage Star Wars, I remember a brief second or two of like regret. Am I doing the right thing? Am I
Yeah,
getting enough for it? And I know I say it all the time now, like, oh, I wish I had that stuff now. But when I look back on it, I know they were all well played with. Like there was paint rubs. Not one of those figures was a mint
yeah.
loose figure. You know what I mean?
They got their use, right? They were
Yes.
used for
Yeah.
what they were supposed to. But the vintage collection kinda gives you that same feeling
Yes.
with just something new.
Something new,
So,
possibly better with a
yes,
articulation if you were to open them. Right?
yes, you have to open them to play with them to tell the articulation is better.
Otherwise, they're the same thing. Yes.
Yeah, but I get the cards on the wall, that's very much I do that so that when I walk in the room, I get that feeling of being on that Toys R Us toy aisle
Yeah.
and
Yep.
looking up and seeing, figures for days.
Just a wall.
Exactly. So, are there any figures that you're missing that you have really tried to find that you really want?
I know there's a farm boy Luke out there for me in TVC somewhere. Um, he's quite pricey. I don't really Jones over figures. Like I
If you miss it, it's okay.
yeah, I've taught myself to be okay with missing out. So FOMO isn't really a big thing for me. Um, I will be upset if there's a figure I did want and I couldn't get it for whatever reason. Either I spaced on the release date or whatever and it sold out in 5 minutes, those types of things. I might get upset about it for a minute, but at the end of the day, they're toys, what
It should be fun.
and
What we
take
do
it
should
too
this should be fun.
seriously. Right. It should be
If
fun.
if if we're
If
d
you're
if we're
stressing
doing
on
it,
it,
it's not fun, is it really a hobby at that point?
right.
Or does
You're
it
just
become
causing
another
yourself
job that
more
you don't wanna
anxiety.
do?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. So, any buyer's regrets or remorse? Anything that you bought that you were just like, "Ah, man."
Not usually. Let me think if there's anything that will catch my eye right off the bat. Um, I try to do a lot of my buying on the cheap. So I do a lot of clearance stuff. Um, see if anything I regret. The ghost may be the closest thing to that. And the only reason I say that is because of the amount of money it costs.
Yeah, it's a
So
one-time big hit thing, yeah. Yeah,
when I
yeah, I
think
totally get
about
that.
how many action figures, whether it's 3 and 3/4 or 6 inch, that you could buy for $600 or whatever
Yeah,
the
yeah,
doll
exactly,
number
yeah.
was on the ghost. Well, 600 when you count in those other two figures they soaked us for.
Yeah, there you go. That
um,
they just conveniently left out of the
yeah, yeah, like, oh, and here's 60 more dollars.
exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah, and
Um,
they made him overpriced too at 60. I was like,
yeah,
"Why? Why
yeah.
would you do that?" But I know
As,
why they did it, but I'm just like, "That's just wrong."
as soon as they put it in a double pack, I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's a bunch Joe double packs coming, so, or that
and I
I'm okay
honestly,
if it's an army builder and
right,
it's a double pack, I'm
right.
cool with that.
I don't mind double packs if they're useful, but don't give me one
Don't
C3PO head.
yeah,
No.
don't give me one figure that I don't want or that I already have and p package it with another
Package it with
figure.
an elite figure that
Yeah,
everybody wants.
exactly. That makes me batty. That makes
Yeah,
me mad. But
yeah,
I know why they do it. But
yes.
we all have to make those kind of decisions. And when we collect, is it going to be an all-in thing, or is it just going to be I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, and I'm
Yeah.
going to go from there. So
So I'm
it's
I'm getting the feeling that you're more picky, choosy with what you buy as well then.
except for Joe, I can't explain it. But I'm also an army builder with Joe because I do dios with him. So
Okay.
um, I think I will end up being picky choosy probably with the retro cards
Just bought
because
two of them today.
if I have, I mean, if I have a set and a figure that I want in a particular version, the retro version, then I'll get it. Like the first, the next three that they're bringing out, yeah, I'm going to be getting those.
Yep.
It's Duke, it's Classic Scarlet, and it's Recondo.
Wakanda.
However, they're never coming off the wall.
Right.
They're going up. I found a doll case. They have a doll case that actually that'll work for those cards because they're so unwieldy and big.
Yeah.
But they're like $5 a case for each case, so it's
Not
ridiculous.
bad. Not
But
bad.
yeah, I found it at a doll shop, a doll online doll place that's what they just sell is doll parts. And it
Nice.
was so I was like, if as long as it fits, because you couldn't find a card, you couldn't
A
find
cake
a
card size.
what's the word? What's the dang word? I am brain farting on the word right now. But you couldn't find a bubble pack that would fit it and would hold that card flat. Because if the card those cards are awful.
With how
You breathe
thin
on
those
them wrong.
cards are, yeah. Yeah, they're
You
terrible.
breathe on them wrong, and they're just flop in the wind, and it's creased. I
Got
mean,
'em
there's
bad.
still a couple creases in the ones that I got, but
Yeah, I just ordered the Storm Shadow and Zartan today. They had them on Pulse, so
yeah.
they're not showing up at Walmart, obviously. Good. Lady
See,
J and
I never saw those two at Walmart ever. I did
nope, me
see a
either.
Crimson Guard finally,
I've never
but
seen a
I've
Crimson
never
Guard.
seen Snake Eyes.
Nope,
I've never seen the Snake Eyes, and I've never seen Zartan or Storm Shadow ever. I have
nope.
seen the first four figures, and then I saw Crimson Guards, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago in two different Walmarts. So maybe that wave was hitting and people were, just taking the Snake Eyes out of it since you
I
could sell
have
it.
been seeing people getting the Crimson Guards in their stores, but I had to get mine from Ireland. My buddy had to send me one a few months back.
Wow. Yeah, no. I any of those kind of things where it's an exclusive, I'll make sure that I order it through Pulse and be
Yeah,
done with it so I
yeah.
don't have to deal with it. I try to focus on the exclusives this where I'm going to be doing this year is I'm going to be focusing more on if it's an exclusive or I think it's going to sell out, I'm going to go ahead and buy it
That's the way I try to do.
and pay for it and be done with it, and then I won't have to mess with it in 4 months. But if it's something that's going to be, mass retail,
Just mainline. Yep.
yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to waste my
You'll
time
find
doing
it.
that because
You'll
I'll
probably
find
find it on
it, and I'll
clearance.
probably find it on clearance at some point.
Right, right. That's
You know,
what I've been doing the past probably 8 months.
yeah. Well,
That's all I've been doing
clearance
is
is a
running
problem for
laundry.
me. Clearance is one of those things that I have to stay away from for the most part because I do get into trouble with it.
Yeah,
Because I'm a customizer, so you know that what's going to happen.
you're
If I
buying
see a
eight of
figure
the
and I can see
same.
the parts, I can figure out how to use it, I'm going to buy it just for the parts. There you go.
$7 Dark Troopers. I couldn't pass them up. I had to buy them all.
I found I bought a TVC. It was a clone trooper, the one with or no, was it a clone trooper? No, it was the one with Grogu and the stormtrooper and it had the
Yep,
flame effects.
yep.
I bought it literally for the flame effects. It was $3.99 at Ross, so I wasn't hurting for money on that
Yeah. I was looking for
one.
those at Ross because there was no way I was spending $27,
Yeah.
$28 on those. No way.
Just yeah, no. I got 3 Outbacks. I bought a Roadblock.
Got him around here somewhere. Now, Ross
Yes,
and Ollie's
Lawrence,
were.
but it was on sale. I had to buy it. No, I wanted the blast effects. I need the blast effects for something in a Dio. It was cheaper than trying to buy those blast effects from somebody online or buying an STL file to print them out myself.
Yep.
See, that's my new trick is doing that. So, do you ever experience burnout with your collection where you're just kind of done?
I don't know if I'd classify it as burnout, but I guess technically, you take a break for a week or two, you don't go on hunt or, something comes up, you go on vacation or something like that. I mean, there's breaks that I do take from it, but not anything that I just say, oh, I can't do this anymore. Nothing fatiguing like that.
I mean, you've been doing it for 9 years now, so you would think that you would, at some point in that 9 years, you'd be in my. But
Yeah.
I think the longer you do it, it becomes routine, and it has its own kind of calm.
Yes.
So
That's a good
I could see that.
way to think about it, where that's what you're doing to escape or what have you. Yeah, that sounds accurate.
So in that vein, is there ever a time that you see yourself not collecting? And what would that look like?
Gosh, I don't even know. Um, as far as collecting goes, I don't think there will ever be a time. I think it's just instilled in me. My grandmother was a collect. Both grandmothers were collectors. My mother's a collector. My father's a collector. Like it's in our family. It's different stuff, whatever is appealing to that person.
Hmm.
It's antique furniture, or, tchotchkes or
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
whatever it is.
Spoons,
Yeah, yeah. My mom had a spoon collection.
stamps, whatever makes the day more bearable, right? We have those things that we have to do then
Yeah, my
that we do
father's mother
because
had a great match collection. So she
interesting.
collected matches from all the hotels and restaurants that she would go to. And she had just, those old metal garbage cans,
Hmm.
those cylindrical ones.
Yeah.
She just had 3 or 4 of them just full of matches of places that she'd been to.
Yeah, that's not a fire hazard at all. No, that couldn't
It's just
possibly be
really cool to go through them and just be like,
bad.
oh, you went to this
Put it in a metal case where it gets hot.
as she smoked the Camel
So
non-filters all day.
I have a couple final questions, and
Okay.
we'll kind of wrap it up. But these 2 last questions are kind of the most important questions in a way. So in psychology, when I was doing therapy, I would ask my patients, if all your problems went away today, what would you do? Well, in collecting, what are our 2 biggest problems? Space and money.
Base and money.
So if space and money were no longer a barrier, what would you collect and why?
I would collect my friends. And by that, I mean, if I hit one of these $1 billion Powerballs and money's no longer an option, I will buy a huge piece of property, put a bunch of homes on it with a Toys R Us centrally located for every cat. We can all just run this store and just a straight commerce type of deal. You earn your money, you spend it in the store, blah blah blah. But everybody live on this piece of property, nice little compound.
Nice. The last question I have. is the most important question, and it's technically visible throughout the entire show, but I gotta find my thing. Where did it go? Oh, okay, now you wanna do this. Oh, there it is. What did you find joy in today?
Today, I found joy in meeting a new friend. I mean, we've never really spoken prior
No?
to.
Yeah,
We
it
chat
was
in the chats and stuff like that, say
yeah,
hello and friendly, but so that's good for me.
okay. Yeah, one of the things that I had to do, because things were dark and depression and, anxiety was up through the roof, and I realized that I wasn't focusing on a positive thing that happened on a day. And I wasn't doing that consistently enough for it to make a huge impact in my life.
Yep.
It's one of the reasons that I started the channel was I wanted people to find that joy. And I think that's what toys do for a lot of us as toy collectors is they allow us to touch that joy that we had playing as a child. Even if we just look at them in a package, we connect with them on an emotional level. Um, at the end of the day, we're trying to make it through life in a way that makes sense. So the thing that I had to do, especially with my son, is I had to learn to find what was good in that day, no matter how bad it was. And
Yep.
there's been bad days. There's been days that I wish never happened. You know, um, but I don't control that.
Right.
The only thing I control is how I look at it and what I choose to get out of it. So that's why I asked that question. Is it's a way for me and my guest in this case, to kind of reflect on the day and see those positive things that did happen.
Yep.
Um, so
It's a nice CBT exercise.
yes, it is. You know where it came from.
I do it every day.
So why don't you tell people where you're at and where they can find you, even though all of your stuff is linked in the description. At least it should be. It better be because I put it in there.
Well, you can find me at pretty much GeForce Racing 20 on all platforms except for Facebook. Well, I shouldn't say all platforms, that's a lie. On Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, that's where you can find me, GeForce Racing 20. And Facebook, that's just my personal account, so I don't really do much on there. I'll
Yeah.
throw some toy stuff out there every once in a while, but
Anything you got coming up?
I just put a couple videos out. I worked on a what I called 30 figures in 30 days
Yeah, I saw
series
that.
this month. So I was opening one figure every day for the first 30 days, just trying to get through the backlog. Uh, I do a hunt once a week. They usually come out on Mondays, the videos. And then we build Lego just about every Sunday on Salacious Rum's channel.
Oh, cool.
So that's a good stress
Uh,
reliever, by the way. Lego's
yeah,
expensive, but very good. Just you time building, playing.
yeah, exactly. Um, I will be on most likely with Oz tomorrow night. Tomorrow
Tomorrow
night
night.
maybe tomorrow night we do a Saturday night clubhouse hangout where it's a
Okay.
group of us. There's also we invited a bunch of people. Um, if you would like to be included into that group, by all means, we can include you in there. I'm sure they would be okay with that. But yeah, we just kind of get together. We talk toys, talk life. It's a very simple get together. And then, of course, obviously next week, I will have a guest. Next week is the 9th. I will have Matthew Matson on, who is Mamu's action figure blog, or Mamu Nestor on Instagram. He's also Lawrence's a moderator, but he does great. He does great for toy photography, so
Oh,
it
cool.
should be a good show.
Cool.
But with that, folks, I will say goodnight, and I will remind you, if you can be anything, be kind. Have a good weekend. Bye.